Hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Nothing like some secret family ties to keep the spice alive. Today on rSpace, this cheater ain't just your average lonely housewife. Be careful of this black widow. Husband cheated with my cousin, who was also his brother's wife. His brother and I ruined both their lives. I just found out a week ago that my husband James, male 34, cheated on me, female 30, with my cousin, who's also the wife of James's elder brother, Alex. Their affair started before our marriage. I always suspected but never had any concrete proof. Every time I tried finding the truth or even confronted him, he would just shut me up and call me crazy that I was being doubtful, paranoid, or delusional to the point that I had to seek therapy just to make sure I was right in the right head. So I don't make my innocent husband's life difficult. I mean, that's what I thought, but he wasn't. Context about me. So I met James during my cousin Kate's wedding with his older brother Alex, who was a regimental medical officer. That's when I and James started seeing each other out as friends. Things escalated and we decided to marry each other after 3 years of dating. I never realized up until now why Kate was so against my decision to marry him and did everything to point out how terrible of a person he was because she wanted him for herself. I never suspected them to have such a thing. Kate is almost 3 years older to James, and she was James's elder brother's wife, so the relationship felt fine to me until I started seeing things. Eventually, I realized you just can't let things slide because of age or family bond. Anyways, I never expected this sort of betrayal to come from either of them, but mostly from Kate, as we have spent our whole childhood together and she has done more damage to me than my husband. Kate and Alex lived in the next block. Their house was within walking distance from James. During our dating phase, we used to hang out a lot at Kate's place. Kate pretended that she liked my presence, but she never did. I never noticed that before, but now I remember how she made fun of my insecurity in front of him, acted playful, and got touchy with him more than often. I thought that their relationship was cute, as James had told me that she was like a sister to him. Kate lived alone as Alex was posted outside, so James helped her out whenever she needed anything. I mean, that's what he told me. Now, when I reflect, I realize James's behavior was not that suspicious, but Kate always displayed a red flag. She would even come out wearing her nightgown in front of James, but confronting her was useless because eventually she would label me as insecure. Also, Kate has always been bold since childhood and never minded her dress in front of anyone, so we were kind of used to seeing her that way. The first year of our marriage was pretty normal. Things escalated when James started coming back home pretty late and often hitting Kate's place for dinner. I let it slide for a couple of instances, but when it turned habitual, I freaked out. James told me that he promised Alex that he would be there for Kate, and since she has anxiety issues living alone, he wanted to be there for her. I was shocked to hear that because she never had any sort of issue. I grew up with her and had known her until now, but I wasn't aware that she had any such issues. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with that he was hitting her place at odd hours. I made it clear that he had either to stop that, or if Kate really needed someone to be around, I would also accompany him. I mean, I was her sister, and if she needs a company, she should be seeking it from me instead of my husband. He agreed, apologized for his behavior, and promised me that he would never hurt my feelings again. When he didn't visit her for a few days, Kate came to our place and started ranting about how she was all alone and how it was hard for her to do anything. She was like, "I'm unable to focus on my business." She runs a flower boutique. "Loneliness makes me so anxious, and James doesn't even bother to check on me." I asked her how that could be hard for her when she was literally living all alone, but she got furious at me for being so insensitive. Our marriage was engulfed with arguments, and it was always about Kate's behavior. James always sided with her and cared for her feelings above mine. I might sound like a completely stupid and delusional person, but you can't draw a proper conclusion, and it takes time to understand the pattern of things happening. I saw it, but I was in denial. Everything was right in front of me. Like after coming from the office, he would visit Kate and then come home. Whenever she had any issue, she would call him for help, and if I had any objection, he would shut me up by saying that she was his sister-in-law. I didn't have a say in it as she was there for him always, and he was just returning the favor. He completely gaslighted the F out of me. Like even if I showed him his actions and how he reacted, he would say that I was out of my mind, a control freak, and a crazy person. He acted like a complete a-hole, all the while telling me he loved me, bought me gifts, and would keep being kind and lovey towards me all week. And then the next moment, if I said any crap regarding that witch, he would snap at me. I believed him and forgave him all the time. Kate and Alex's marriage was terrible. One of the main reasons was that it was a one-sided love marriage because Alex was the only person in love. That's another story. Sometimes my mother-in-law used to tell me that their marriage was in shambles, but neither Alex nor Kate told anyone about it. Everyone assumed that it was because of their long distance. James told me that Alex didn't want to have a child with her, but my mother-in-law told me that it was Kate who didn't want to have a child. So I guess it's pretty obvious because half of the time she was busy making love with James. Kate always got jealous whenever James did anything sweet for me, cribbing about her terrible marriage. Because of that, James asked me not to tell her anything or show any sort of PDA, as it might hurt Kate's feelings. Like, wow, he even bought her gifts, and if I wanted something, he would ask her if she wanted it too. He manipulated the crap out of me through the constant love bombing to hide his cheating. They both manipulated the crap out of me. I really thought he loved me, but it was just a mask, and all of that really made me crazy. I couldn't sleep for days. On our 4th anniversary, James threw a fancy party at our house with close friends and family. We were about to pop the champagne and begin the celebration when Kate started faking her panic attack. James literally left my side to take her to the hospital. Kate's brother and my brother were also present at the party. They rushed to take care of her, but she kept calling for James. It was the time when my mom and my mother-in-law realized what Kate was really trying to do. Mom observed everything and asked me about the issue. I told her everything from the start, and she was shocked that I ignored such a big issue. She told me that there was something going on and that I should keep an eye out before it got too late. James didn't come back in the night. He texted he would be at the hospital with Kate. I couldn't sleep the whole night, thinking my husband was really cheating on me because it was really obvious. Even though we had a great sex life and he took me to places and treated me nicely, it was just to protect himself from the truth and make me go insane. Complete BS. Anyway, my mother-in-law asked James not to meddle in Alex's life and to make sure that he didn't create any issues in his marriage, as she found their relationship highly inappropriate. Mother-in-law told her to hire a house nanny or something if her health was terrible because asking for us, me and James, wasn't appropriate. Kate must have told her mother, which made her call me and say billions of crap and accuse me of filling my mother-in-law's ears against Kate. James limited his visits, and we somehow managed to change everything. Since he stopped meeting her, our relationship was a lot better, and I thought maybe he wasn't cheating. Somewhere, with the lingering fear, I kind of started trusting him, not fully, but slightly. We had a great time together, but that's when I caught him cheating on me. On a random day, I decided to meet Kate and sort things out because I thought maybe it happened due to the lack of Alex's presence, and she was just jealous. James called me before that and told me that he would be late tonight before I could inform him that I was going to see her. He hung up the call. Anyway, in the evening, I visited her, and she was literally not happy to see me. We talked for a few moments and asked her about her health, but she was on her phone all the time and rarely replied. She suddenly started coughing pretty badly, so I went to fetch water for her, and that's where I saw my husband's wedding ring lying on the desk. I gave her the glass and immediately went back without saying anything to her. I was hyperventilating, and my thoughts were out of my head. It was a terrible moment. When James came back, I saw the wedding ring missing. When I pointed it out, he was shocked and told me that he left the ring on his office table and apologized to me. It was so hard for me to act normal after finding out the truth, but I had somehow controlled myself for the time being. I had a feeling that I was pregnant, but I was too early to test, so I decided to wait for a couple of days. Test it out, and then go to this confrontation crap. I refused to have sex with him and didn't talk to him. I'm guessing Kate would have told him that I visited her and saw the ring and I've added it up. I really thought somewhere in all of this that Kate was the one who controlled James and had him wrapped in her fingers because, in all honesty, she was better than me in everything. Yes, I mean look-wise, she's gorgeous. But I can't just blame her because James literally begged her to share her nudes with him. Yeah, I read their texts. I have checked his phone earlier also in the past, but nothing came out. This time, luckily, I found his secondary Instagram account, and that's where all of it was. I collected all of the evidence and talked about this with my mother-in-law. Before that, another big event came up in my life, and it was the pregnancy test, which came positive. I couldn't believe that I was pregnant. All my dreams shattered, and I realized how much I wanted to start a family with him, and now I don't want him to come near my kid. I had developed many mental problems, and trust me, I had a great life before I met him. I told my mother-in-law about everything. She was so devastated to see how her son was betraying his own brother. She was in utter shock, and I never saw her like that before. She was angry and ready to disown him for something like that. She told me many stories about how Alex used to protect James and was always there for him. She called my father-in-law and informed him about everything. She told me to be mentally prepared for divorce, as there was no way I should forgive him. No amount of apology can fix cheating. As for Kate, we will tell Alex everything as he is coming in 10 days. When I told mother-in-law that I was pregnant, she hugged me and cried. She supported me emotionally and physically, but never took his son's side, which was very kind of her. I informed my parents that I was going to divorce him. I also told them not to disclose anything about this to anyone. I didn't say anything to James for 5 straight days, and after that, When I got the divorce papers ready, I waited for him on the table. I gave him the divorce papers and told him that I was not going to let him cheat on me all my life. He didn't say a word, and then I showed him the pregnancy kit, which was flashing positive. I didn't wait for his reaction, and I left him right there. I wanted to make him feel helpless just the way he made me feel in all these years. I'm staying with my parents now and ignoring James's endless calls and texts. I'm just waiting for Alex to return, and I confront him how his witch has screwed up our lives. I've sent the evidence to Kate's parents as well to see what they have raised. So she was like a sister to him, and yet he still slept with her. Yuck. And if she was so concerned about living alone, she married the wrong guy. I mean, she definitely married the wrong guy if her and James wanted each other from the start. Going to her house for dinner is a bit inappropriate. And why not also invite you? But then again, why can't she come over for dinner at your place every now and again? Where are all of her friends? Why does she need her husband's brother to come around? But then, there's the wedding ring. Ouch. I'm sorry, OP. At least your mother-in-law knew exactly what to do. Prepare for that divorce. Thank goodness you have her support. Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the love and support. I'm doing pretty well, and I'm also 4 months pregnant. Trust me, it's not easy to cope with the consequences of divorce, but it will pass eventually. So I flashed the divorce papers and pregnancy kit on his face and ghosted him. I didn't want to hear anything from him. I knew he would just create some random lies and BS to cover the crap, and I stayed through such crap for 5 straight years. So it was enough. Anyway, after knowing I was pregnant, something did change in him because guilt and regret were choking him. I was in contact with mother-in-law, and she filled my cup with all the information. She told me that he was constantly apologizing to her for what he did and asked him to bring me back because he wanted to be with the child and he was ready to fix the marriage. In all honesty, you can't even fix cheating, and that gave me an ick already. It's a no for me. Mother-in-law asked me not to get on his word and to focus on myself and my baby. Kate knew that as soon as Alex would arrive, mother-in-law would tell him the truth, so she booked a week-long trip. The reason for the trip? I'll come to that eventually. She picked him up from the airport, and they straight went for a trip. When they came back from the holiday, as expected, mother-in-law told him the truth. He was disgusted by Kate's manipulative tactics. He abandoned her and also cut off all ties with James. He visited me and we both cried in our misery. He took the blame on himself that he never doubted James's closeness with Kate, and that led to all of this. A month later, Kate showed up at mother-in-law's place saying she was pregnant and urged her to help her reconcile with Alex. This was the reason for her surprise trip. You see, her shrewdness? It was a very weird turn of events. Alex almost gave in to Kate's pleadings when my father-in-law suggested that he speak to his lawyer and see if there were other options. The lawyer suggested a paternity test and all the previous test reports. Paternity test wasn't required because Kate's lies came out open just with the test reports. Kate was 3 months pregnant, which clearly indicated that the baby was not of Alex. Before any confrontation, everyone assumed that it was of James, but Kate confessed that it was neither of James. She was fooling around with someone else. God knows who. Alex fed her with divorce papers and ripped her off from any alimony or maintenance. Kate's parents lived next door, and Mom said she saw Kate a couple of times at her parents' house, but she's staying not there. My father has also severed all ties with his brother, Kate's father, after what she has done to me. After the divorce, Alex left again. He wasn't able to deal with the betrayal of his brother and wife. James, on the other hand, was going through a guilt trip. He tried all means, requesting my parents to convince me, sending long emails from different accounts telling me how bad it is for kids to grow up with divorced parents. He did everything he could and cried in front of me. He begged me, but there was no way I could accept it. It was just hard for me because I was the one who got cheated and he lost nothing. Maybe he lost his baby, but it was his own action, and now he was supposed to face the consequences. One day, he called me and asked if we could sit and talk before we got separated. I thought of giving it a try, and it was okay to have closure. I asked him to come home. He looked really happy to see the baby bump and told me that he couldn't wait to see our baby. I got really emotional, but the face of a cheater was enough to make me lose all my emotions. I was not happy to see him, but I had to. All the flashbacks were hitting on every neuron. We chatted for a minute, and I finally asked him when it all started. He told me the whole story. It all started before we started dating, as Alex was never really home and they got attracted to each other. It was only a sexual relationship, and they both enjoyed doing that. Kate hated the fact that he was dating me, but he was in love with me. He said he still loved me and no one else. I laughed at his statement. Kate never wanted him to marry me, as it would have ended everything between them, but he had already lost his interest and decided to stop seeing her before our marriage. Somehow, he couldn't resist, and the sexuality turned emotional because his brother was never present and Kate was really going through a lot emotionally. He told me about her ex-boyfriend, whom she wanted to marry but couldn't, and that the baby was his. The information was a lot for me to take in, but I had no empathy for either of them at all. He again started apologizing, and it was my time to make him realize what he did, and that he doesn't deserve forgiveness. I reminded him how he manipulated me emotionally and physically, and I was just there for him to have sex with, but he never gave me the respect of a wife. Lying was one thing, but he gaslighted me even when I confronted him with evidence. He would go beyond limits to save her feelings above mine, and now that I'm pregnant, he wants me back. He stayed silent and told me that he would sign the divorce paper and would never ask me to forgive him. He asked me if I would let him share custody of the child, and I denied it. I was expecting him to file a case against me for custody, but I guess he was aware that he had created enough problems for me to deal with, so he just left silently. Mother-in-law visits me often, and I'm just trying to heal myself for my baby. Poor Alex. This is so heartbreaking, and I gotta say, I was sort of expecting James to fight more for his baby. It sort of makes you think that he didn't really want the responsibility after all. Everyone likes the idea of something, right? Update 2. Hey guys, it's been 7 months since I made my last update. First, let me tell you that I have been blessed with a baby boy, and I am so over the moon holding him in my arms. After the birth of my son, Kate's father, my uncle, visited me and apologized to me for Kate's nuisance. He also said sorry on behalf of his wife who used to support Kate in all her evilness. No, not the affair part, but in general. He told me that Kate suffered the consequences of her actions. After divorcing Alex, Kate went to her boyfriend whose baby she's carrying. That man took her in for a few months but later abandoned her. No one knows where he went. He just left a note that family and baby were just not his thing. Kate got severe panic attacks leading to her miscarriage. It was heartbreaking to know that she lost her child. Being a mother, I understand it is so painful, a feeling of losing your child. It gives me chills just to think how I would react if my baby got slightly hurt. I told my uncle that I could never forgive Kate. Kate suffered because she ruined 3 lives, including her baby. On the day I was in labor, mother-in-law was there, along with James, and he cried after taking his baby in his arms. I got really emotional and thought of how beautiful it would have been if he didn't act like a complete crap, but whatever happened stopped after I got my baby. I still can't forgive any of them, and now am focused on my baby, myself, and my future. That's horrendous. I'm sorry to hear about Kate's baby. And as for James, yeah, that would be incredibly disappointing and heartbreaking to think of the what-ifs. He had something really good, and now he's missing out on something wonderful. It's funny that he got played too, though. Like, yeah, it might have been sex, but turns out someone else was wetting Kate's whistle too. What do you make of all this? What would you have done? Has anything similar happened to you? Share it with us in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.